and a great pleasure to be here this evening amongst all of you in this very poignant and very profound and solemn place. I'm an art curator and have been active in the art world for over 25 years. So when someone invites me to come and speak at a museum, it's usually about art. On this occasion, in this beautiful museum, that's such a symbol of something that is important to all of humanity. I was asked to talk about Gilberto Bosques Saldívar, a Mexican Schindler. I was very happy to do this because I grew up hearing about this gentleman throughout my childhood. I was raised in the United States, but I'm of Mexican descent. And my father was a Mexican diplomat for over 40 years, specializing in border issues. So we lived most of our life in California and in Texas. And having heard about Gilberto Bosques Saldívar was through him, because he was really a myth in the consular corps of different countries, and particularly in Mexico. Gilberto Bosques had been a military, a soldier in the military during the revolution, and served in Mexico during the time of the General Aquiles Cerdán. He was a very brave man. Later on, he had, I believe, been the editor of El Nacional, which was the first big newspaper of Mexico City. Later on, he was appointed Consul General of Mexico in Switzerland, and later on in Vichy, France. When he was in France, he decided to help many, many people that he came upon. And this was a very difficult thing because the consuls and consulates were all very scrutinized. The ambassadors were always a symbol of prestige and are there more for image of the countries and representation of the countries. But the little ants, the people that work very hard, are usually the consulates. And so this consul took it upon himself to ask the president of Mexico, which at the time was Cárdenas, if they could bring in refugees from Europe to Mexico. And of course, President Cárdenas said, we open our doors immediately. Mexico has always been a country of welcoming, a country of great generosity and love for all its members of different continents, etc. And so Gilberto started issuing visas to anyone who wished to leave Europe because of persecution. And it was in particular the Jewish community living the Holocaust. But it was also members of other countries, you know, Poland, Spain during the time of Franco. And he ended up issuing over 40,000 visas. So he literally saved the life of over 40,000 people. Because there was this moment where they couldn't leave immediately after they got their visas. They had to leave from the port of Marseille, so they had to leave by ships and boats, etc. He rented 2 enormous castles in that area where he hosted all of these people. And at one point, in one of them, they had like over 800 people. So can you imagine the chaos, etc.? But he found the funds, etc., to be able to do this. And even though there was difficulty with Vichy France, he was able to you know, help all of these people. So that's basically his story. But the most interesting part of the story, I believe, is how he put himself at risk. And this is something that, in sharing the story of Gilberto Bosques Saldívar with my husband, we started to discuss, and he pointed out, he said, well, that's, you know, very generous and that's very brave. But he actually took himself and his family and put themselves at risk. Because, yes, they were saving a lot of people, but they were imprisoned. They were imprisoned for, I believe, almost 2 years in Germany, before finally the government of Mexico negotiated with Germany to have an exchange of prisoners. Mexico decided to arrest all the German citizens in Mexico in order to say, hey, we need our consul general back in his family, and then they said, okay, you know. So all of these stories, I'm sure that Salvador, Mexico, all of the world has Schindlers. And if we, you know, we can't point them out at that time period, I'm sure that we can start pointing them out today. This museum that's so solemn and has a certain, gives us a certain feeling of melancholy, sadness, deception, and humanity. It's also a place of, as you said, Maria, reflection and of hope. This is a generation now that we have to take it upon ourselves to think about this and how we can be our own little Schindlers around in our community.
Yes.
So I thank PART for inviting me. Have a look at our table.